Shriya, all opulence. Pati, the owner. Yagya, of sacrifice. Pati, the director. Prajapati, the leader of all living entities. Niyam, of intelligence. Pati, the master. Lokapati, the proprietor of all planets. Dara, earth. Pati, the supreme. Pati, head. Gati, destination. Cha, also. Andaka, one of the kings of the Yadu dynasty. Vishnu, the first king of the Yadu dynasty. Satvatam, the Yadus. Prashidatam, be merciful. Me, upon me. Bhagavan, Lord Sri Krishna. Satam, of all devotees. Pati, the Lord. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Translation, may Lord Krishna, who is the worshipable Lord of all devotees, the protector and glory of all the kings like Andaka and Vishnu of the Yadu dynasty, the husband of all goddesses of fortune, the director of all sacrifices, and therefore the leader of all living entities, the controller of all intelligence, the proprietor of all planets, spiritual and material, and the supreme incarnation on the earth, the supreme all in all, be merciful upon me. Well, Sukadeva Goswami is one of the prominent Gata Vyalikas who are free from all misconceptions. He therefore expresses his own realized perception of Lord Sri Krishna as being the sum total of all perfection, the personality of Godhead. Everyone is seeking the favour of the goddess of fortune, but people do not know that Lord Sri Krishna is the beloved husband of all goddesses of fortune. And the Brahma Samhita has said that the Lord, in his transcendental abode, Goloka Vrindavan, is accustomed to herding the Sarabhi cows, and is served there by hundreds of thousands of goddesses of fortune. All these goddesses of fortune are manifestations of his transcendental pleasure potency, Radhini Shakti. In his internal energy, and when the Lord manifested himself on this earth, he partially displayed the activities of his pleasure potency in his Rasa Leela, just to attract the consumed souls, who are all after the phantasmagoria of pleasure potency in degraded sex enjoyment. The pure devotees of the Lord, like Sukadeva Goswami, who are completely detached from the abominable sex life of the material world, discuss this act of the Lord's pleasure potency, certainly not in relation to sex, but in relation to transcendental taste, inconceivable to the mundanes who are after sex life. Sex life in the mundane world is the root cause of being conditioned by the shackles of illusion, and certainly Sukadeva Goswami was never interested in sex life of the mundane world. Nor does the manifestation of the Lord's pleasure potency have any connection with such degraded things. Lord Chaitanya was a strict sannyasi, so much so that he did not allow any woman to come near him, or even to bow down or offer respect. He never even heard the prayers of the Devadasis offered in the temple of Jagannath, because the sannyasi is forbidden to hear songs sung by the fair sex. Yet even in the rigid position of a sannyasi, he recommended the mode of worship preferred by the gopis of Vrindavan as the topmost loving service possible to be rendered to the Lord, and Srimati Radharani is the principal head of all such goddesses of fortune, and therefore she is the pleasure counterpart of the Lord and is non-different from Krishna. Well, I'll just talk a little bit on it. It's a big report. Well, just yes. So Sukadeva Goswami is expressing his own realizations of the perception of Lord Krishna as a sum total of all perfection. We know that it is said that sweetness is the very essence of Krishna's nature. You know, the sweetness of Krishna's unbelievable beauty. It is said, actually, Radharani described Krishna's beauty as an ocean of beauty that creates a daily festival for the eyes. And it is said, you know, that every feature of Krishna's transcendental form is likened to a tidal wave of luscious splendor that just inundates the senses of these devotees and drenches their hearts with unlimited satisfaction. You know, the gopis were cursing Brahma for creating eyelids, because just by their temporary blinking, they at that moment they couldn't see Krishna. So everything about Krishna is simply wonderful. You know, everything about Krishna is just simply adorable. I mean, the name of Krishna actually means the all-attractive one. You know, Krishna has that potency. He can attract the mind, attract the senses, attract the heart of every conscious living being. Because another name of Krishna is Bhagavan. He's the source of all excellences, all opulences, unlimited beauty. And actually his beauty, he said, it's always increasing. And when he's associating with his devotees, his pure devotees, his love increases. And his beauty reaches its pinnacle in the association of Srimati Radharani, because her love is the highest, Mahabhav. These are unlimited fame. I mean, here on earth, you know, maybe we might think Krishna is not so famous. Not so many people know about Krishna. But this planet Earth is just one little tiny speck within one tiny little corner of one universe, within a whole cluster of millions, something like 40 million universes. And then beyond that, it's a spiritual sky, unlimited, you know, spiritual planets, where Krishna's fame is sung. Unlimited strength. Who can be as strong as Krishna? I mean, he killed all these big demons. He lifted a whole mountain on his little finger of his left hand for 7 days when he was only 5 years old. But just by the raising of his eyebrows, just by his desire, he's systematically conducting all the affairs of both spiritual and material universes without a flaw, just simply by his all-pervasive energies. Unlimited knowledge. He is the actual source of all knowledge. Even whatever knowledge we find in this world. You know, you go to the universities, whatever's there. You know, economics, mathematics, science, medicine, architecture. All these branches of knowledge originally had their source, tracing back in the Vedas, have come down from the Vedas. And who's the source of the Vedic knowledge? Krishna. Unlimited wealth. I mean, actually, everything in the entire creation, both spiritual and material worlds, belongs to Krishna. Who can be more wealthy than that? I mean, people are attracted to these things. Someone's very beautiful, someone's very famous, someone's very strong, or has a lot of knowledge, or someone's very wealthy. People are very attracted. Krishna has these to an infinite degree. Renunciation or independence. Krishna's, although he has all this incredible wealth, we see people out there in the material world, you know, they may have you see them sometimes on the coast, they step out of their BMW or their Ferrari and they're looking around to see who's looking at me. You know, they're so proud of their wealth and opulence, you know. You know, they have someone has a beautiful wife or a fiancé or a girlfriend, you know, they're very proud, you know, wow, she's with me. Krishna, he has unlimited wealth. he's associating with unlimited, the most beautiful girls in the whole of creation, but he's completely detached from it all. He's completely satisfied within himself. He doesn't need anything or anyone to satisfy him or fulfill his desires. He's Atmaram, fully satisfied. And completely independent. I mean, Krishna can just do anything he likes. Unlimited. So, I mean, the reality is, what everyone is hankering for in their heart, they're hankering for this perfect, loving relationship. Which means they're actually hankering for Krishna. Because only Krishna could really accommodate everyone's loving feelings and loving propensity to a point where everyone's fully satisfied. And he'll always reciprocate our love. So Prabhupada, he's talking about, the goal of life is to awaken and develop our eternal loving relationship with Krishna. So, the cultivation of appreciation of Krishna's transcendental beauty, his name, his form, his qualities, his pastimes, his associates in abode will help us attain this goal. To understand Krishna's Vrindavan, eternal abode and pastimes, Prabhupada explains that one must not only have sufficient knowledge in the Vedic literature, but ultimately one must become a devotee of Krishna. That means one has to purify one's heart. Do you really want to understand Krishna's pastimes? If you want Krishna to reveal his pastimes, to reveal his transcendental character and nature and personality, Prabhupada said, you have to purify your heart. And it starts with following the four regular principles, chanting japa daily. Systematically, we have to study the Srimad Bhagavatam from the 1st to the 10th canto. We have to get an understanding of Krishna's creational activities. Realize how great it is that he's not just a normal person. He's completely transcendental. So when we get to the 10th canto, we won't start committing the mistake of imagining Krishna's affairs to be simply mundane affairs of this material world. Although Krishna's intimate pastimes with Radharani and the gopis are not generally considered subject matter for public discussion, our Vaishnava acharyas, they actually encourage us, devotees of Krishna, to study Radha and Krishna's exalted transcendental loving pastimes in Vrindavan. Because as mentioned in this verse, just by hearing these transcendental pastimes, the lusty desires in one's heart, which actually constitute the heart disease of the conditioned soul, will be vanquished. One will become a most exalted devotee of the Lord. And Prabhupada talks about these things in the beginning of the Krishna book. He talks about how, when Krishna manifests his eternal previous form of a 7 to 10-year-old boy, because Krishna, you see, he sometimes takes on different forms as a little baby, and then later on, as he grew up, he left Vrindavan, they went to Mathura, and they went to Dwarka, and he became king of the Yadus, and he lived there till 25 years old. But the eternal form of Krishna is actually there. Krishna performed all these different pastimes so he can reciprocate with all different types of devotees. As a baby, as a young boy, as the king of the Yadus. But his eternal form is that of a 7 to 10-year-old boy, pre-youth. And in that pastimes, he enjoyed these loving affairs with the young girls of Braj. So the to a non-devotee of Krishna, such dealings, they seem to just resemble the loving affairs of worldly people. In reality, Krishna's loving affairs are said to be spotlessly pure, like molten gold, and they're ruled by pure spiritual love, untainted by any kind of lust or selfish desires. And in Goloka Vrindavan, what happens is Krishna, he just expands and he divides up his spiritual potency into millions of these beautiful young girls who he loved in the mood of a paramour. They're actually direct expansions of Krishna. And it says that when Krishna was dancing with the gopis in the Rasa Lila, it was like he was dancing with his own shadow. Because they're just complete, just direct manifestations or expansions of Krishna's Lagini Shakti, his internal pleasure-giving potencies. So I've said, although these young girls were married at a young age according to the Vedic system, they had this natural tendency to accept Krishna as their supreme husband. Of course, Krishna, it wasn't practical for him to marry, 3 million gopis. But ultimately Krishna, he's the husband of everyone, but he is the supreme enjoyer. Everyone was created for his enjoyment. Everyone is subordinate to him. So in the material world, this paramour love is considered abominable, and it's ruled by lust to fulfill selfish desires. But in the spiritual world, it's present in a super excellent relationship between Krishna and the gopis. And it's ruled by this pure spiritual love. So these pastimes, they occur under special circumstances. They're completely transcendental, and ultimately we have to understand that Krishna, he's not bound by the rules and regulations of this material world. He's the supreme controller. He may personally appear to transgress religious principles, but that's only possible for him, because he's the supreme controller. And we should never even think of trying to imitate Krishna. I'm going to read on in this purport. In the Vedic literature, ritual schools, there are recommendations for performing different types of sacrifice in order to achieve the greatest benefit of life. Such benedictions as the results of performing great sacrifices are, after all, favours given by the goddess of fortune, and the Lord, being the husband of the lover of the goddess of fortune, is actually the Lord of all sacrifices also. He is the final enjoyer of all kinds of yajna. Therefore, Yagyapati is another name of Lord Vishnu. It is recommended in the Bhagavad Gita that everything is be done for the Yagyapati, Yagatat Kamana, for otherwise one's acts will be the cause of conditioning by the laws of material nature. Those who are not free from all misconceptions perform sacrifices to please the minor demigods. But the devotees of the Lord know very well that Lord Krishna is the supreme enjoyer of all performances of sacrifice. Therefore, they perform the Sankirtana Yajna, Shravana Kirtana Vishnu, which is especially recommended in HG Garuda. In Kali Yuga, performance of other types of sacrifice is not feasible due to insufficient arrangements and expert priesthood. We have information from the Bhagavad Gita 3:10-11 that Lord Brahma, after giving rebirth to conditioned souls within the universe, instructed them to perform sacrifices and to lead a prosperous life. With such sacrificial performances, the conditioned souls will never be in difficulty in keeping body and soul together. Ultimately, they can purify their existence. They will find natural promotions into spiritual existence, the real identity of the living being. A conditioned soul should never give up the practice of sacrifice, charity, and austerity in any circumstances. The aim of all such sacrifices is to please the Yajnapati, person of the God. Therefore the Lord is also Prajapati. According to the Kathopanishad, the one Lord is the leader of the innumerable living entities. The living entities are maintained by the Lord. Eko Bhavanamyo Vidhati Kaman. So it was ever called the Supreme Buddha, the maintainer of all living beings. So this is, Prabhupada's mentioned the Bhagavad Gita here. And there's that verse in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna tells us, whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer, whatever you give away in charity, whatever austerities you perform, do that as an offering to me. So what determines an action is spiritual or material? Is the consciousness or the intention behind it. On one hand, we may act to please Krishna. On the other hand, we may simply act for our own selfish material purpose, or enjoyment, or pleasure. Everything we do in life can be used for spiritual growth, or can be used to actually entangle us more and more in this web of material illusion, where we see ourselves as the supreme enjoyers and controllers and providers. So Bhakti yogis, what they do is they try and see the world through spiritual lenses, seeing how everything belongs to Krishna, therefore everything should be connected to Krishna, everything should be used in Krishna's service. And this is real renunciation. You know, amongst Krishna's transcendental pastimes in Vrindavan, there's one story about a woman whose business was selling fruit. You may know this story. Now she came to Braj and she was calling out, "Oh, inhabitants of Braj, if you want to purchase some fruit, please come, please come." So upon hearing this, what happened? Baby Krishna immediately went to his mother's pantry, took some little handful of grains in his hands from his mother's kitchen with his little hand, and he went to barter to get some fruit, in the bags, and he had the bartering, exchanging things. So while Krishna was hastily rushing to the fruit vendor, most of the grains, they just spilled out of his hands, so fell to the ground. So he just had just a few little grains in his hands left. So he held up his little hand to the fruit lady, and she saw the grains. Then she took those few grains and then she filled Krishna's hands with as much fruit as he could carry. And in exchange, what happened? Krishna mystically filled her whole basket with precious jewels and gold. So in this pastime, Krishna is teaching us that anything offered to him with love and devotion, he can easily reciprocate, like millions of times over. Krishna is also telling us, or teaching us, that with love and affection, we should give something to him. We should try to give something to him from the source of our income, with our words, with our actions, with our body. We should try and sacrifice some of our energy to give to him with love and devotion, and then our life will be successful. Ultimately, Krishna doesn't need anything from anyone. He doesn't need anything. But if we give to him, it's for our eternal benefit. It's not, he doesn't really benefit from it, although he enjoys that loving reciprocation of his devotees. That gives him the greatest pleasure and enjoyment. But it's for our eternal benefit. So in Bhakti Yoga, Krishna consciousness is a very open process. It's up to each individual to determine how much he or she wants to give, how much they want to get involved, how much they want to sacrifice. Some people may just want to give a little bit. Some people may want to give a lot. Some people might want to give their whole life and soul. The essence of bhakti is real love. And love requires freedom. Love cannot be forced. Love and devotion can't be forced against our will. So loving devotion to the Supreme Lord means surrendering to Krishna using our free will. What happens when you actually spontaneously give out of your own free will? What really happens then is the flower of bhakti or loving devotion will grow nicely, just blossom in the heart. So in our Vedic scriptures teach us how everyone can live comfortably and happily in this world and at the same time gradually attain perfection, while moving progressively at one's own individual chosen pace, according to one's nature, according to one's commitment, one's motivation. Not everyone will be the same. Everyone is different. Everyone has a different individuality and different, you could say, a level of spiritual advancement, different nature. So, in this way, spiritual life is a very personal thing. Krishna doesn't interfere with our free will or independence. He leaves it up to us to make our own choices. In the beginning, we see people, they can simply start Bhakti Yoga, this process, by chanting Hare Krishna, reading some books, by Prabhupada's books, and one becomes more and more enthusiastic, to make advancement, to get more involved. We have so many things going on. We've got temple programs, festivals, preaching activities, a whole range of service options. How we can get Krishna's mercy and blessings by pleasing Him in so many ways. Even if someone is just working out there in the world, Prabhupada recommends you take a little bit of your income, a little percentage, just every week, just give that to Krishna. And this way you get into the mood of you actually serving Krishna in your occupation. So we just want to, these different ways and different levels that people can sacrificing their time and energy and resources at His service, please Him, get His mercy, get His blessings. And our congregational members, people living out there in the world, they can also get involved. They can share their Krishna conscious experiences with family, with friends, neighbours, work colleagues. Not that they should go around just bashing people on the head with the Bhagavad Gita. But they should do it. Explain this. Teach people about Krishna consciousness in a nice, positive, friendly way. And just try and make friends with people, and just nicely, just in a gentle way, you tell them about Krishna consciousness. So this Bhakti Yoga is really, it's a culture of sharing, helping each other in our spiritual journey in life, helping others on their spiritual journey in life. We share our realizations, we share Sharan, we share our knowledge, the holy name, our experiences, realizations. We also share opportunities to involve people in devotional service. It's a sharing of Krishna consciousness. Opportunities to please Krishna, get His mercy, get His blessings. So, as followers of Bhakti Yoga, we're all united in one purpose, really. And that is to follow the path taught by the Vaishnavacharyas and eventually try and go back. Go back. So this Bhakti Yoga culture, it actually embodies this universal truth. It's not only us, but it's shared amongst most spiritual and religious people. And what is that universal truth? It is that one is best situated in life when one is in a mood of giving. And Krishna tells us in Bhagavad Gita that without sacrificing, without giving some of our time or our energy or our wealth in devotional service to Him, one can never live happily in this life, on this planet, in this life or what to say in the next. So we learn this in Bhakti Yoga. We learn this process of giving from the heart and how the highest giving, which yields the highest benefit, is to give to Krishna and also to give to saintly persons. When we give from the heart, what happens is we become purified, we become nourished, we become enlivened, especially when we give to Krishna, the higher cause. But generally what happens in the materialistic world, where people are driven by passion and ignorance, they simply view the world and they live in this self-centered, egocentric, competitive, selfish, exploitive way, where the mood is just, how much can I get for myself? Who cares about anyone else? It's just all about me. And what does this do? This leads to one becoming more and more covered by ignorance, embedded in greed and lust, desire, selfishness. And one becomes embedded in longing and frustration and anxiety. And it said, ultimately there cannot be any real peace, inner peace or happiness. For someone who's in this mood, selfish kind of mood, who simply cuts off their loving relationship with Krishna and simply views oneself as completely independent. The independent enjoyer, controller, proprietor. Generally people, even people who follow some kind of faith or religion are generally only exposed to the external pieces of religion. They never really know they never know or are taught what's the essential purpose of religion. People are simply taught to simply see God as their order supplier. The one that's going to fulfill their material desires and free them from their sins. So many people, they pray in this mood of bargaining with Krishna. If you give me success, Lord, then I'll believe in you. You make this person love me and I'll stop drinking. You give me good grades at school and I'll worship you every day. If you cure my disease or illness, I'll go down to the temple and I'll make a donation, or the church. In this way, people pray in this mood of bargaining with Krishna, bargaining with God. So according to the Bhakti school, this type of mood or relationship with Krishna it's okay. I mean, it's a good step in the right direction. Make people, inspire people to be more moral, or to even think of the Supreme Lord. But we learn that it's not the ultimate relationship. As one's faith and one's knowledge of the Supreme Lord develops, we stop trying to make deals with Krishna and we look for a deeper exchange. We see in the spiritual world, or in spiritual consciousness, one is in this mood of just total giving out of spiritual love, without any expectation of anything in return. So this is said to be the complete expression of our natural propensity to express love. We just want to give without anything. So Krishna, he's that perfect person who we can fully give ourselves to. Because only Krishna can accommodate everyone's loving abilities perfectly. And he'll always reciprocate perfectly our love. Whatever little bit of devotion we do, whatever little bit of service we do, whatever little bit of sacrifice, we step out of our comfort zone, and we try and offer some service to Krishna, or some wealth, or some, Krishna will always reciprocate it. So, at the very core of this love of God, this love for Krishna, of our love, it's not just some sentiment, it's not just some feeling. Love, it's actually a devotional work. It's a work. Sacrificing our energy, our time, our skills, our wealth, our intelligence, ultimately our very life for Krishna's pleasure. It's not to be just walking around in a daze with the eyes rolling around and everyone's just lovey-dovey. But actually, real love and devotion is a devotional work. Sacrificing our energy, our time. So, as I said, Krishna is at Ram, he's completely satisfied. He doesn't need anything. Still, it is said, he longs for our love and devotion. And the more we serve sincerely, give to him according to our capacity, the more he appreciates our service. He appreciates it. And the more happy we become, the more spiritually realized and advanced we become, the more we're actually able to enter into a really personal relationship with Krishna. And as I said, ultimately it's only Krishna that can accept our offerings and reward us in such a way that we become completely satisfied. I'm just going to go back and keep reading this purport. Living beings are proportionally endowed with intelligence in terms of their previous activities. All living beings are not equally endowed with the same quality of intelligence, because behind such development of intelligence is control of the Lord, as declared in the Bhagavad Gita. As Paramatma Supersoul, the Lord is living in everyone's heart, and from him only does one's power of remembrance, knowledge and forgetfulness follow. One person can sharply remember past activities by the grace of the Lord, but others cannot. One is highly intelligent by the grace of the Lord, and one is a fool by the same control. Therefore the Lord is Divya Pati, or the Lord of intelligence. The conditioned souls strive to become lords of the material world. Everyone is trying to lord over the material nature by applying his highest degree of intelligence. This misuse of intelligence by the conditioned soul is called madness. One's fool. Hey, can you not check that? Make sure they turn that milk off. Yeah, just because I've got it pulling down. I ask, I'm sensitive, it just makes you feel. One's full intelligence should be applied to get free from the material crutches, but the conditioned soul, due to madness only, engages his full energy and intelligence in sense gratification. To achieve this end of life, he will be commits all sorts of misdeeds. The result is that instead of attaining an unconditional life of full freedom, the mad conditioned soul is entangled again and again in two types of bondage in material bodies. Everything we see in the material manifestation is but the creation of the Lord. Therefore he is the real proprietor of everything in the universes. Being told to enjoy a fragment of this material creation under the control of the Lord, but not self-sufficiently. That is the instruction in the Upanishad. One should be satisfied with things awarded by the Lord of the universe. It's out of madness only that one tries to encroach upon another share of material possessions. So yes, some people wonder, what is intelligence? Where does intelligence come from? And we see this mentioned here, that intelligence is the form, direction of the Supreme Lord within our heart. It's a super soul. It's the Lord within our heart. He's supplying our intelligence according to our desires and needs. And everyone has intelligence. I mean, even the most, just to do the simplest thing requires some intelligence. And we see that in the little birds, of the insects, the animals, they've all got some intelligence. They know how, Krishna's giving them intelligence, how to collect their food, how to mate, how to build their little homes, how to defend themselves. So similarly, Krishna's giving us intelligence according to our desires and our needs. If you want to become a big atheist, a big biological scientist and try and prove that God doesn't exist, Krishna, that requires intelligence. Krishna can give you that intelligence. If you want to, become an expert thief or smuggler, that also requires intelligence. Krishna can give you that intelligence if that's what you're looking for. But this a misuse of intelligence which is misdirected. But if you want to understand this Vedic knowledge, if you want to understand Krishna's transcendental pastimes, Krishna can also give you that intelligence. Therefore we should be praying to Krishna, please give me the intelligence that I can understand you, that I can know in essence who I am, what my real purpose in life is, how I can act on the spiritual platform. I just finish this. The Lord of the universe, out of his causeless mercy upon the conditioned souls, descends by his own mercy, energy, Atmamaya, to re-establish the eternal relation of the conditioned souls with him. He instructs all to surrender unto him instead of falsely claim to be joyous for a certain limit under his control. When he so descends, he proves how much greater is his ability to enjoy, and he exhibits his power of enjoyment by, for instance, marrying 16,000 wives at once. The conditioned soul is very proud of becoming the husband or even of even one wife, but the Lord laughs at this. The intelligent man can know who is the real husband. Factually, the Lord is the husband of all women in his creation, but a conditioned soul under the control of the Lord feels proud to be the husband of one or two wives. All these qualifications, as a different type of pati mentioned in this verse, are meant for Lord Krishna and Srimad Goswami has therefore especially mentioned the pati and gati of the Yadu dynasty. The members of the Yadu dynasty knew that Lord Krishna was everything, and all the men intended to return to the Lord Krishna after he had finished his transcendental pastimes on the earth. The Yadu dynasty was annihilated by the will of the Lord because its members had to return home with the Lord. The annihilation of the Yadu dynasty was a material show created by the Supreme Lord, otherwise the Lord and the members of the Yadu dynasty are all eternal associates. The Lord is therefore the guide of all the release, and such skills and not these Jewish things of latent feelings.